Why would you want to listen to me about living your fittest life? Who am I? What are my credentials? What the hell do I know? In this video, I'm going to dive into that a little bit, give you some context in terms of what I've done for myself over the last 30 years and what I've been doing with some of the people that I've worked with over the last 18 months. Hopefully this will be of value to some of you out there. Before we get into it, if you could please like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification as well, it'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so in order for me to jump into this, I need to give a bit of context with regards to myself and what I've done personally. And then I'm going to talk about how that's fed into what I've been doing over the last sort of 18 months. I am a Nigerian Caribbean, so my father is from Nigeria. My mum is from the French Caribbean, Guadeloupe and Martinique. I was born in London. And I was raised initially in Lagos, Nigeria. So I lived there for about 15 years, between the age of 1 and 16, and then came back to London. So why am I telling you this? In Nigeria, our rich African meals and dishes are not the most healthy options out there. They're very rich in terms of ingredients, etc., but they can be very oily, very heavy on carbohydrates. The nutrition is not something that I grew up people advocating for, not like we have today. Eating healthy, vegan, vegetarian, all that stuff. For 15 years I was in Nigeria, I'm not even sure that I knew any vegetarians or even understood what a vegetarian was. Everyone ate meat, everyone ate all the rich African dishes, and everyone enjoyed it. So what did that look like for me growing up over there? Now, in my immediate family, it was fine, actually. My mum, being Caribbean, influenced the household in terms of what we ate. And so we actually balanced quite nicely and had a very nice sort of nutritional intake in terms of the family. So none of my family members were obese, fat, or anything like that. But generally, in Lagos, Nigeria, there are a lot of people that are carrying a lot of excess weight, usually as a result of the nutrition and also men specifically, a lot of alcohol intake. They drink a lot of beer, so you have a lot of young men that have beer bellies basically, and that was certainly something that I registered very young, and I thought, no, I don't want that. Another thing that was interesting to me was, and I realized this later on actually when I got older, was how the people that we perceived as older and they had, the big men, bit chubby, big beer bellies, etc., were not actually that old in terms of their age. They just appeared to be older than their age because they were essentially overweight and not in the healthiest, state. In addition to that, the life expectancy generally in that part of the world is not that great. I mean, you don't have a crazy number of people living over 80, 90, 100 or anything like that. I don't know exactly what the number is. I might research it to put in this video, but I think I'm going to hazard a guess that it's probably less than 60. I think it's 50 something, 54, 55 or something like that in terms of life expectancy. So it's not the best. Okay, so that's context in terms of how I grew up. While I was living in Nigeria, I realized that I loved sports and I loved fitness and I loved exercising. Every time I came across a bunch of friends, either through school or anywhere else socially, and someone else was really into basketball specifically, that was my main sport, or martial arts. So those are the two things that have pretty much stayed consistent my entire life. Those things have stayed consistent, and anyone that was into that, then they were kind of like someone that was close to my heart, and I tried to get close to them. One of the strategies that I've realized that I've adopted from quite a young age is I've always tried to get closer to people that had similar interests in terms of like fitness, sports. I realized after a while when I was looking back at it that a lot of my friends that were sitting at home on it's not even PlayStation back then, this is like in the 80s, so Atari probably, and spending hours on end on Atari versus the friends that were out on the basketball court I was out with the guys on the basketball court. The one thing that did is it aligned me to people that had similar interests. But as a result of that, it actually allowed me to develop my own self-motivation to go do those activities. Basketball, specifically athletics, was another thing I was into. Just that one strategy alone, by aligning myself and getting closer to people that had those similar interests as me, it meant that I would spend more time with those people, and so we would do similar things. But then even when they were not there, I would be able to motivate myself to go, do those things by myself. Maybe because I wanted to improve on my basketball skills in comparison to those guys that I was with. How does this relate to life today? It's very, very similar. You have to look at your circles. If you're trying to lose weight and you're surrounded by basically most of the people around you are not looking to better themselves physically in any way, and they're drinking 10 pints of whatever every day, 7 days a week, then it's going to be very difficult for you to change your life, or lose weight if that's your particular goal, or gain strength, or anything like that, right? It's a similar thing. You have to get into the mindset of changing the people around you, and then once you start aligning yourself with people that have similar goals, and yes, you will potentially lose some friends, but that's natural in life. You just align more with people that have similar goals and are moving in a similar direction to you, which is fine. And then what will happen as a result of that as well is you will develop that self-motivation, because a lot of people talk about, oh, you got to be self-motivated, you got to be a self-starter and all that stuff, but you can't just wake up one day and be a self-motivated self-starter, from someone that's trying to lose, let's say, 20 kg, you're a smoker and heavy drinker, etc., etc. It's not possible. You might want to start with just aligning yourself with maybe one person that's maybe got similar goals, or something like that, or even an environment that's going to change the way you eat, move, and just think about those things. So that's one thing that I did for myself, and I found successful from when I was very young, and I've continued to do that through the years. I'm 42 years old now. I'm talking about stuff that started when I was 10, 11 years old. And that continued to my teens when I was 16. I'll give another example. In the neighborhood where I lived, I went to school with a guy, actually shout out to Asusi Orwell Brown. He might see this clip. He was one of the fastest guys in the school, either the fastest or one of the fastest guys in the school. I think possibly his brother was maybe faster, but anyway, there were two brothers and they were literally rapid. And I was, I think, like third or something like that. And so I always wanted to beat him. He probably doesn't know this. I was like, man, I need to beat this guy. But funny story, he used to jog around our neighborhood. We're in our teens, right? And he was hench. To me, I looked at him, I was like, wow, this guy's hench. I was like a lanky 6 foot, young guy. And he just looked like muscle bound hench to me. And he would walk around in these like gym vests, the stringer vests in the neighborhood. And he would be running around the neighborhood. Anybody that knows GRA, Keja, shout out. And he'd be running around the neighborhood, and he would stop off at my house and say, hey, what's up, Deji? We'd chit chat for 5 minutes or whatever. And I'd be sitting there, he'd be sweating. This is like 30 degrees, right? In Lagos. So he would be sweating, but he'd be like looking, and I just looked at him. I always used to look at him like, how am I going to beat this guy? He's running around, jogging for fun, when I'm at home playing Atari or just chilling or whatever. So that always like triggered something in me. Is like, okay, I need to like either associate myself more with someone like him. He'll motivate me to push harder and try and achieve better. And he did. And I'm sure he never knew that, because automatically what would happen is he would continue his jog, and I would go back inside the house, and I would be like, no, I'm not going back to playing games or playing with my dog or whatever. I'm going to do some push-ups, or I'm going to do some pull-ups, or I'm going to do some dips or something like that. I wasn't quite brave enough to sort of run around the neighborhood, because like I said, I was a lanky, skinny guy. So, but at least I know mentally that it motivated me. That continued into my 20s as well. 30s as well. I always aligned myself with people that were into the things that would keep me fit, whether it was in sports or in general fitness, running, cycling, playing badminton, squash, I had different groups of people throughout my life that I aligned myself with in order to keep me on that level. One of the things that is triggering for me sometimes is when people say, oh man, Deji, you're so fit. You've been pretty much fit your whole life. You never gained weight. You can't be fat. Like it's not in you. Your metabolism is crazy fast, And I just think all of that is just absolute bollocks, because if I ate excessively and I drank excessively, like some of the people that I work with, I would 100% put on weight. I've seen this actually play out in my life, where I went to a stage where I wasn't really that motivated to get out and keep active, but I was really motivated to drink a lot of cider. So I was used to sit at home, drink a bit of cider, watch Netflix, hang out with the family, and it didn't even last that long. I'm thinking maybe 5, 6, 7 months or so. And I looked in the mirror, looked down on my belly. My wife will remember this. And I was like, what the hell's going on there? I'm like, I think in my 30s or something. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought people told me I had a fast metabolism and I can't get put on weight. And one of the worst looks is to be like a slim guy with a big pot belly. It's weird. But anyway, I'm sure guys that have excess weight everywhere else would probably say that's one of the worst looks. But the point I'm trying to make is it's all about calorie in and calorie out, right? So if I reduce my calorie burn, like burning of energy, and I increase my calorie intake by, everything I put in my mouth essentially, so drink, food, etc., then I'll put on weight just like any other person. I'm just a regular person. But because I've always stayed even keel with all of that stuff in terms of what I put in and what I exert out in terms of energy, I've been able to stay as I am right now. So that's another thing that people can scrub off the list, basically, that, I can't put on weight. I can. I just choose to maintain my lifestyle and make sure that, nothing goes out of the ordinary. Once I saw the belly come in, I stopped buying cider. That was it. I literally went to my wife and I said, yeah, this bottles of cider that we're always buying, like 3 or 4 a week. Yeah, we need to stop that. Like, none of that. There's a sale going on at Tesco. No, we're not doing that. We got to reduce that. And that's what happened with that. The second thing that I've definitely used my entire life, and it's carried on, is basically to set challenges for myself. Set myself goals to achieve something, like, run 5K, cycle this distance, or compete at this competition, a martial arts competition, or try and beat a particular friend at, a particular exercise. So even before I got into strength training in the gym, which is only 2018 actually, in the other activities that I did, I would always have somebody that was a little bit better than me, whether it was badminton, basketball, football, or something like that. And so I just used those guys as motivation and set myself challenges to say, okay, I'm just going to run a bit faster and let me see if I can, do a little bit more distance here. Or if I'm stuck at, 15 push-ups, let me see if I can do 20 over the next month, and then see if I can build up to 30 over the next month after that. Up to today, I still do these mini challenges. Otherwise, you get bored. Basically, is the long and short of it. You can't just live a very stagnant lifestyle where everything's the same. Like, you wake up, do the same thing throughout the day, and then wake up the next day and do exactly the same thing again. You might be able to sustain that for a few weeks, a few months, but after a while, you're kind of like, oh, I need a bit of a different thing to do. I need something that challenges me in a different way. So I've always done stuff like that, and that again has tied into how I've interacted with the clients that I've worked with, and getting them to sort of pick little challenges that will help them tick off small little boxes, that also you get that satisfaction of, okay, so the big goal is here, but actually I'm just going to tick off this little box and this little box, and set this challenge to tick off that little box and that little box. But before you know it, you're enjoying the process. First of all, you're getting lots of wins along the way, and the big goal that you're trying to achieve seems a little bit smaller because you're ticking off little steps along the way. Set yourself mini challenges, mini things to do, It's always worked for me. I know through proof that it's working for the people that I've worked with as well. So if you try that out, it could be anything. You could say, actually, I literally sent a message today to a friend to do one, which is just join the prostate cancer cycle 100 miles in August, which is in a few days. It's not really a big deal, but it just means I had a cycle trip earlier in the year. So that there was a lot of motivation towards cycling and doing that. Now I don't have that trip. I'm not that keen on getting on my bicycle. Actually, if I sign up for this 100 mile a month thing, I'll get on my bicycle because I said it. And if I say I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it. Now, the third and final thing that I think has definitely been something that I've used my entire life since I was a teenager and I continue to do today is not being scared of standing out or being different. A lot of what society does generally, where most people are doing it, is not necessarily the right thing. It just means most people are doing it, so it just appears normal. Something that I've always done is basically not really mind standing out. You might lose some friends here or there because you're standing out a bit too far from the crowd or whatever, but if you stick to the first point, aligning yourself with those that are going in the same direction as you, and you don't mind you and those people standing out from the general population in the direction that they're going, then you find that at the end of the day, it will work better for you. And the goals that you're trying to achieve, you'll be aligned towards that and probably get there quicker, certainly more than anyone else. How is that tied into some of the stuff that I've done over the last 18 months or so? A lot of the clients that I've worked with over this period of time have realized that while they're going through their transformation journey of usually weight loss, they start realizing that, some of the people that they have around them might be skeptical. Well, that's fine, because at the end of the day, you have to be thinking about yourself first and foremost. It doesn't mean you're not being friendly or you're not being sociable or whatever, but it just means you're prioritizing you. So, case in point, within my corporate career, I have a lot of opportunities to socialize in a drinking capacity in the pubs, etc., etc. It's a big cultural thing in the UK. And I drink alcohol. It's not that I don't drink, but I just drink one or two and I'm good. I am very controlled in that regard. But sometimes, even drinking one or two, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to come to the pub. I'm not going to come and network, today because it's a Wednesday and I did it on a Monday and had one drink and I was good. And I don't really feel like it. And so I'm just going to skip it. Now, that will make you stand out a little bit, but it's fine because when I post on social media and people see me doing what I'm doing, they're like, oh, wow, how do you stay so fit? You look amazing. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. But it's probably because of decisions like that I've made many times. And someone else might have made the opposite decision, that there's that much of a gap between where I am and where you are. Always think about yourself. Don't mind standing out. Hopefully you guys have found some value in those 3 tips. It's worked for me 100% since I was young and into my 20s, 30s, and certainly still works for me into my 40s at the moment. So hopefully it will work for you guys as well if you can try and adopt 1, 2, maybe 3 of those things slowly into your lifestyle. Remember everyone, living your fittest life is a forever lifestyle. Stay blessed. Love.